Hello! Let's talk about one of our favorite things, art books. Today we're going to focus on memory keeping, and I'm sure by the end of this video, you're going to want to pull out your journals and sketchbooks and start documenting your own life. So I kind of organized the books into diaries, things that were recorded while the events were happening, and then more biographies, autobiographies, like recorded after they happened. This woman's work includes a bunch of sketchbook pages, which is why I put it in the first section. Things like this. These are kind of my favorite pages in the book. This is an autobiography that talks about femininity and assumptions that we make about gender. Even though this is a very personal book, it kind of reflects a larger conversation that I think a lot of women will relate to. There are some traumatic memories recounted in here, so maybe check the trigger warnings. But even the very serious moments are drawn with this kind of light and fluffy color palette. I love all the mark making in here, from the colored pencils and the mixed media when gouache or watercolor is included. One of my favorite things is just the way that the text is arranged on the page, because there's no set template. It's different on every spread. And the way that the words intertwine with the vignettes is so cool. I'm also just a big fan of this kind of script handwriting. There's also these bits of collaged paper that are like literally taped in, and I love the effect that these little remnants of tape gives. Next we have Drawn In. This is a peek into the inspiring sketchbooks of 44 fine artists, illustrators, graphic designers, and cartoonists. And of course, looking at other artists' sketchbooks is always gonna make me want to go draw in my sketchbook. And sketchbooks are just such a natural way to document your life. Like, even if you're not actively thinking about it being a record, say you're doing like an observational drawing of some fruit in front of you, I feel like you're gonna remember that moment that you were drawing those fruit in the future. But this book is really cool because every page is a different artist. There are little interviews on the side, which I love. And I just think it's so interesting to see the way that different artists use a sketchbook, because it's such a personal thing and it's so different for everyone. This one is a little bit different. It's called From Here to There, and this is actually a book about maps. It celebrates these ephemeral documents, usually forgotten or tossed after having served their purpose, and gives them their due as everyday artifacts. So this book is a collection of maps by all different people. There's a little table of contents in the beginning which organizes the different types of maps, and that includes direction, found, fictional, artful, maps of unusual places, and explanatory maps. I love seeing the pieces of paper that these maps were drawn on. Sometimes they're crinkled up, sometimes they're on a napkin. And maps are just such an instinctual way to document your life. Like, it's literally how you travel through the world. And the way that you interpret that on paper can be different for everyone, as you'll see in this book. And it's cool because they're kind of all about communication. So if you're a map lover like me, definitely check this out. Then we have The Diary of Frida Kahlo. This covers the years 1944 to 1954. It contains Frida's thoughts, poems, dreams, and reflections of her relationship with Diego Rivera. And as a visual artist, you can really feel in here like her need to draw, because this is not just a book full of writing. Even the way that she writes is so painterly. She switches out colors, different inks. Sometimes she just draws on top of the words. And it is all in Spanish, but then the back translates each page. But I'm really glad that they did the translations in the back, because it doesn't take away from the pages itself. This is just one of those books that really makes me want to take a journal with me everywhere. This is Memories of Distant Mountains. This is one that I picked up recently. Illustrated notebooks from 2009 to 2022. Orhan Pumuk is a writer, and for many years he kept a record of his daily thoughts and observations. In here he talks about his travels, his family, his writing process. Just design-wise, I'm a big fan of the way that this book looks. When you open it up, it has this layout where the journal is scanned in and placed in the middle of the page. And as you can probably tell by now, I'm a big fan of seeing the full sketchbook. There's just something so sweet about seeing the book as an object. But just like Frida Kahlo, he uses lots of different colors. Like, while he's writing, he switches between pens. His book actually reminds me a lot of Frida Kahlo's, just the way that it goes back and forth between drawing and writing. And again, it just really makes me want to do that. Like, I would love to have a book full of just all of my thoughts and like everything I see interpreted on paper. paper. Now we're gonna start transitioning into this pile. These are the more autobiographies, like not diaries exactly, but these first three are kind of like a middle ground between the two categories. So I have Women Holding Things by Maira Kalman. All of Maira Kalman's work just feels so personal, and the way that she combines text and image is kind of exactly what we're talking about here in terms of documenting your life in the form of a book. I just love her paintings so much. The back says, "What do women hold? The home and the family, and the children and the food, the friendships, the work of the world, and the work of being human, the memories and the troubles and the sorrows and the triumphs and the love." Such a sweet concept. I like how this book is such a specific theme. Even though she's not just painting herself, these are still people that she encounters in her life. They're part of her world. They're part of our world. So I love that. And how could we not talk about comics? I have the Best American Comics of 2019, and I think we just have to touch on comics a little bit because comics are another one of the main ways to record your life, like on paper. This one is kind of similar vibe to the book I showed about other artists' sketchbooks, just because it's a collection of work by different people, so lots of different styles and perspectives. Makes me really want to make diary comics. I love the comic form. It's just, there's so much you can do with it, so many ways that you can push it and make it your own. I like how sometimes you can go more heavy on the text or more heavy on the image, and they're both still a comic and they both still get the point across. Then Film for Her. I feel like this was like the classic Tumblr book. It's very inspiring. The back says, "A storybook of people, places, and memories captured on film." I put this in kind of like the in-between category just because film photos are taken in the moment, so you're documenting like while the thing is happening, but then the way that this book is curated is so beautiful, and there's some poems in here and stuff. I like how this page is just like all pictures, and I love the inclusion of the ferry ticket. Like sticking some ephemera in your notebook or journal is just a really cute little personal touch. I like that it utilizes photo. A lot of the books I talk about are very like drawing and painting heavy, and you don't have to draw or paint. Photos are also a really cool way to utilize text and image. And Swimming Studies does that too. This one has some drawings as well, but the middle section has all these different photos of bathing suits. So this is a book by Leanne Shapton, who you've probably heard me talk about before because I'm a big fan. And this is a collection of autobiographical sketches that explores the world of competitive and recreational swimming, which I feel like is just such a unique thing to talk about. I think it's so cool to focus on a specific topic like that, but then by doing that, you're actually talking about so much more. Here are some of the beautiful paintings that Leanne Shapton does so well. Just so painterly. I love how they're like abstract but figurative. The brush strokes are beautiful. Same thing with these portraits. Okay, then we have probably my all-time favorite, Life or Theater by Charlotte Salomon. I have talked about this book before, but it fits perfectly into this video, so I had to bring it up again. I feel like Charlotte Salomon is such an underrated artist. Like, she's just not talked about enough, and the amount of work that she created is amazing. She was a German Jewish artist who was sadly murdered in Auschwitz. She obviously had a very hard life, and she reflected on her life in this book. There are over 700 gouache paintings and text to accompany each one. The book is organized into 3 sections, just like a play: the prelude, main section, and epilogue, with distinct acts and scenes. And the whole thing kind of feels like a comic. It's just very sequential. I love the way that she paints her text. Like, there's separate writing, but then sometimes she literally paints the text kind of like as an image. So if you want to hear me talk about it a little bit more, check out my video on my favorite art books. And I think if you like Charlotte Salomon's painting style, specifically the way she depicts people, I think you will also love Liana Finck. This is Passing for Human. Liana Finck makes comics for The New Yorker, and this is her memoir. I just love the way she draws. Her wobbly line, it's just so like endearing, and it feels very sincere. The whole storyline of this book is that she has lost her shadow. She's on a quest for self-understanding and self-acceptance. And I'm like, oh my gosh, flipping through these pages, it's been a while since I read this book, and I really want to read it again now. I love all the different patterns that she creates with the line. She sticks to the pretty classic like comic box format, but the way that the lines are so wiggly makes it really her own. This is a great example of how I would want to do diary comics. I just love that it's just paper and a pen. It feels so natural, like you can just pick it up and record whatever you need to. Another way to record your life is through quilting. This is Quilting Your Memories. I got this this book at the library bookstore, and it's about incorporating photography into your quilts. Isn't that such a cool concept? Like putting children's artwork onto a quilt. I love that. And quilts are already so narrative and like such great documentations of a life. Like they're literally hand stitched a lot of the time, and the way that the different pieces of fabric are sewn together. So I feel like this just takes it one step forward in the like autobiographical realm. Okay, you're gonna freak out about this one. 1 week in January, New Paintings for an Old Diary by Carson Ellis. And I had been eyeing this book online for a long time. This is one of my recent purchases. So when I saw it in a bookstore, I was so excited. Let me read you the back. It says, in 2001, Carson Ellis moved into a warehouse in Portland, Oregon with a group of fellow artists. For the first week she lived there, she kept a detailed diary full of dry observations, mordant wit, hijinks with friends, and turn of the millennium cultural touchstones. Now Ellis has richly illustrated this 2-decade-old journal in the signature style that has made her an award-winning picture book author today. I just love the idea of taking an old diary and interpreting that into something new. I love the super mundane moments that she captures and the way that the different pages are sectioned with days of the week. This script handwriting is so good. There are also these pages of like full text diary entry, and it's always joined with a beautiful illustration. I'm very impressed with what a clear mood this book conveys. Like all of the illustrations are so cohesive, the color palette is solid. I kind of strive for my work to be like that. Now I just have to pop in my favorite children's book from when I was little, Fancy Nancy, because this book has always given me such a like magical feeling of creativity. I just get lost in these illustrations with all the little details, and especially the way that Fancy Nancy decorates her bedroom. Look at that. That is just so fun. So this is obviously not a memoir or anything, but I had to include it because of the way that it just invokes such a feeling of like wanting to go make stuff. It has such a DIY vibe. So those are all the books that I have to share with you today. Let me know if there are any others that you can think of that are kind of along this same genre, and let me know how you're documenting your life and memory keeping. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye!